everybody, it's Jimbo. What's happening? You're probably thinking, wow, you're not out on the water, and that would be correct. I'm going to make a little video today about the gear I use, the lures I use for the casting type of fishing I do, topwater casting and jig casting. So I'm going to walk you through that gear, see what you think. Later. Alrighty, so these are all the topwater plugs I use while casting from the kayak. This side you'll see are poppers. The top is a whopper plopper, which I've never really had much luck with. This is a Halco Roosta popper. You can see the popper, concave face there. I just used that a few days ago in choppy conditions. This is a Smack-It popper. These are pretty good ones as well. And this is a Smack-It Junior popper. I think the company that makes the Smack-It poppers are Stillwater. And you notice I have just single inline hooks, and it really hasn't, changing the trebles to the single inlines hasn't really cut down on the number of fish I catch or the strikes I can hook up with. I just don't like the fact of a bunch of treble hooks flying around the inside of my kayak while I'm trying to take a fish off the hook, so that could be dangerous if you know what I'm saying. So those are the poppers. Those out of the way. These are the walkers, the topwater walkers that I really prefer these because they mimic more of the, say, the activities and the action on the surface of an eel, which is a kind of a favorite food of the striped bass, as well as, you know, these work for speckled trout and drum, North Carolina, Virginia as well. This top lure is made by Bomber Lures. It's called, as you can see, maybe you can't see, the Badonkadonk. This mimics a redfish, as you can see by the spot on the tail. It's pretty cool, works pretty good. This bad boy right here is probably my favorite. It's made by Miro Lure, and it's called the She-Dog. Man, I've caught so many fish with this. You can see it's kind of in bad shape there. Man, I've caught so many stripers and redfish on this walker, man. I guess the ball bearing inside, I don't know if you can hear that, it's kind of large, and it has like a low resonance, which attracts larger fish, man. That's why I use these lures so much. These are other lures made by Miro Lure. This is a sheep pup, which I don't think I've used this color yet. And this is also a sheep pup. I've used this one. And they're good, man. Miro lures are good lures, are good walking lures, topwater lures. So those out of the way. These are topwater lures made by a company in Mansfield, Texas, called the Mansfield Knocker. And this is Mansfield Knocker. I think this style is called the Wounded Mullet. Has an interesting shape, but it gets this, you know, this kind of walking action on the surface, which redfish, trout, and striped bass seem to really dig. This is also a Mansfield Knocker. This style is called El Tigre. You can see the stripes, and it's cool. These ball bearings in these are pretty large as well, which attract pretty decent sized fish. And I bought these from the company with single lines already installed as opposed to the treble hooks. So these are all the topwater lures I use: poppers, walkers, smaller walkers. This is the setup I use for topwater casting. We have a Shimano Stratic 3000 reel. It's spooled with spider wire, 20-pound braid. You can see it's kind of a camo blue. The rod, as you can see, is a St. Croix Premier 7-foot medium power fast action rod, and I have, as you can see, I was just using this yesterday. This is a Mirror she-dog with the single inline. With this setup, I use, again, the 20-pound braid, and I use a leader. About, in this particular case, I need to change the leader because I try to do that after every trip where I catch some fish, because the leader gets, there's abrasion and it could be compromised, so I change it after every trip if I catch a lot of fish, and I got to change this leader today. I like to use between 2 and 3 feet of leader, and this is the Topwater setup I use. So here we go with the jig casting gear that I use. See in the center, see these jig heads? These are made by Z-Man. These are trout eye jigs at 1/4 ounce. I found that these work best for the casting that I do here in Maryland and down in North Carolina. Here in Maryland mostly for striped bass, and North Carolina for speckled trout. These jigs are fantastic. Hooks are very sharp, of course, and if I'm fishing in the catch and release situation, I'll crush the barb of the hook so the hooks come out of the fish's mouth much easier. These plastics range in size from, I think it's 3.5 to 4 inches. These are Z-Mans. I love Z-Man plastics, man. They are the toughest plastics. These are diesel minnows. This top is called a Slam Shady. This is Lime Pearl. This is Space Guppy, which speckled trout just go nuts over these. And this, I think, is called, the color is Pearl. And striped bass dig these, flounder, as well as speckled trout. Over here, I like to use these colors of plastic swim baits made by Saltwater Assassin. This pink color, of course, trout dig it, so do stripers and flounder. I think these are 3.5 inches. This color on the bottom, the pink, is called Butt Naked. Yeah, you heard me. You heard me. Butt Naked. This color is called Hot Chicken. Yes, indeed. The names of these colors are pretty happening. This top color is called Slammin' Chicken. So these are, you know, I'll show you in a second how these are rigged on the jig head, but so this is the casting setup I use for stripers and trout. Shimano Stratic 2500 HG reel, spooled with 10-pound Power Pro double strand braid, and I use a 20-pound leader on this setup, which I change after every outing. Yesterday I caught quite a few fish, so I changed this leader yesterday, and you can see how I have the swim bait. You can see how I have the plastic rigged. It swims through the water this way, and you can see this is kind of beat up a little bit. I caught a bunch of stripers on it yesterday, so I'll change this out for my next outing. But this action is pretty good. This color is the Hot Chicken. The only drawback about lures, or these plastics with, you know, one color body and then the chartreuse tail, is sometimes after you catch a few fish, the tail becomes weak and the tail is bitten off, so you have to replace it. That's not going to happen with Z-Man plastics. You can catch a zillion fish with one of these Z-Man plastics, even fish with teeth like bluefish, and they're not going to tear through it. So yeah, that's what I use for jig casting. So again, the rods I use with the jig casting setup is a St. Croix Triumph. Get this right. It's a 7-foot one-piece St. Croix Triumph rod, medium light power, fast action. The Topwater rod, along with the 3000 Shimano Stratic reel, is a Triumph, also made by St. Croix, 7-foot one-piece. I think I mentioned in the video that it was a Premier. It's a Triumph. That's medium power, fast action. Those are the rods. The leader I use for the jig casting setup is 20-pound mono, and the leader I use for the Topwater setup is 30-pound mono. Well, there it is, everybody. the hard plastics for topwater fishing and the jigs and soft plastics that I use for casting for striped bass and trout. And there it is, right there. So, if you dig this video, hit like and subscribe. Send me some comments, ask me questions. If I can deliver, I will deliver. Until then, tight lines.